You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm here today with Jack Paxton, who is the founder and CEO of Viper, which is a sort of promotional SaaS platform for contests and sweepstakes and other forms of promotion. And I always think it's interesting to hear the origin story for platforms like this, sort of what causes a person to say, I can't find what I'm looking for, I need to build it. And so, Jack, what was that catalyst moment for you where you said, I got to build this?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me first off, Kevin. And yeah, we have a pretty interesting origin story, actually. So I've got a co-founder, he's technical co-founder, and we worked at the same company at one point. And we were working on a client, a K-pop client, actually. And we noticed how crazy the engagement and the fan base was of this K-pop band. And so we were deciding how do we leverage this fan base as much as possible. So we stumbled across actually one of our competitors. We started off actually with Gleam, one of our competitors, to run a giveaway for these guys, and it just absolutely blew up. And there were a bunch of opportunities that we saw that Gleam wasn't necessarily allowing us to do. So we tried to hack together something that could do what we wanted to do. And this is mainly focused around the gamification aspect. So it was the process of, collecting points and incentivizing social engagements, incentivizing tagging and sharing and all this sort of stuff. So we noticed that it was really hard to do with that original product. And that gave us the idea of, hey, for the next campaign, why don't we just kind of build something that we want that's going to be a little bit easier. The design's going to be a lot nicer. The features and bonus actions, that sort of stuff that we include in the giveaway is going to be included or created. And so that's kind of how it started. We sort of had a client that we did it on, saw how successful it was, noticed that there was a lot of opportunity with improving the product. And then that's kind of how we started. And then from there, we worked on it for a few months and it got picked up on Product Hunt. We didn't submit it to Product Hunt, someone else did. And so we woke up one morning and all of a sudden it was on Product Hunt and we were like, wow, well, what do we do here? This was back in the day, I think probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And so, yeah, we didn't really know what to do there. So we just kind of stayed up all day, just, promoting the Product Hunt, replying to stuff. We threw together a quick lifetime deal for early adopters because the product still barely worked at that point. But we still had to take advantage of that traffic. And so I think back in the day, it was a lot easier to rank really high on Product Hunt because I think it was product of the day or something. And that was without us doing any planning. And so I think back in the day, it was a little bit easier. Now, Product Hunt's a little bit harder, but that's kind of how we got our first, I would say, a few $1,000s in sales. It wasn't MRR because it was a lifetime deal, but that definitely gave us a few customers to start using the product, giving us feedback, telling us what they like, what they don't like. And that was kind of like the starting point of Viper and how we had the idea, how we created it, and how we got our first sales and customers.
Great. That is absolutely a great origin story. And, usually there's something similar to that. But you definitely wanted to improve on it, make a better mousetrap. So that's a great thing that you were passionate enough to do that. So one of the things that sort of evolved over the years is, there are different points in time where, email address registrations were like the hottest thing from a marketing KPI perspective. And then for a while, it was sort of like, email, it's somewhat passe, millennials don't use it. And, now email's back and it's suddenly interesting again because it's become one of the identifiers that's used for custom audiences in Facebook and custom audiences in programmatic display. But I know that email addresses have always been an important sort of registration KPI in promotions, in sweepstakes, and in contests. Have you seen sort of a ripple effect now that email is super important again, where there's like a surge in interest for people using the platform?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest catalyst was the iOS update that rolled out. And all of a sudden, tracking in browsers and pixels became, it completely got disrupted from it, because that was 100% what Facebook and other advertising platforms were relying on to identify people. So all of a sudden you had a quick shift of marketers and brands wanting to move to first party data. So that's email, phone number, name, actual information on that person that they submit and you can collect. So I think that's really what reignited the importance of email, because brands were like, okay, how do I get in touch with people now? Because I can't do remarketing. I can't show ads to people who visited my page now, but didn't interact or didn't purchase, because that browser information wasn't getting passed back if they're on an Apple product. And, we all know that almost nobody opted into the marketing tracking. So, right. so brands and marketers were given a bit of an issue there in terms of how do they connect and, engage with their potential customers. And I think that's where SMS blew up. SMS was already on the rise, but then definitely when email got reignited. And I think that's, it's circled back into a full loop, and email, I think, is always so valuable because it's not owned by anybody. So the problem with like all of these messaging platforms, if you build a bot or if you build WhatsApp or if you build Facebook Messenger, or if you build a social platform, the problem with all of these is they're owned by a company, and the company makes the rules. And so you can build a massive business off the back of this. And when one day they can be like, no, we're banning your account, or no, we're changing the rules so that your exposure and engagement is now 1% instead of 50%. And, you look at the main point of contact for email and phone number, nobody actually really owns that. So you can easily switch between platforms. You can move around. You can do so much more with email and phone numbers than you can with building any sort of other database. So I think that's where email started to get really interesting again, because people started noticing like, hey, I built this massive Facebook following or this massive Instagram following, and I used to get a bunch of sales from it. I used to get a bunch of traffic, and now I'm not getting anything. So I think brands started to realize like, hey, it's really important that we build our first party database, not just focus on our social followers or our bot size or our bot list or something like that.
Interesting. You just got me thinking about browser push, because that's sort of like halfway between, because you can build a native, owned and operated browser push, but it's pretty complex to use the service worker within the browser to run it. And obviously big enterprise organizations can do that, but pretty much everyone else uses one of those prepackaged sort of browser push notification systems, which you sort of own, but you sort of don't. It's almost like an ESP where you can't move the email addresses, right? Because you're locked in to that provider. Has that influenced your product roadmap at all? I mean, obviously, browser push is still a super powerful push notification, but it's sort of right in that in-between zone where you do have a fair amount of control as a marketer in what you push and when and to whom, but but you're sort of a little bit beholden to the platform you've chosen.
Yeah, I would say it would be a great addition to the product roadmap. We haven't really thought too much about it because we have been really focused on email, phone, and mostly generating social engagement and indicators to somewhat gamify the ad platforms. That's really one of the reasons why we made Viper.
Right.
To inflate the shares, comments, all that sort of stuff.
Yep. Has any of the clients wanted to incentivize app installs? Is that sort of another feature that's sort of pretty popular?
Yep. App downloads for sure. And then, thinking about how many apps there are that people can potentially download, if you add some incentive behind it, unless you're in the top kind of like 10 or maybe 100 apps, it's very hard to get organic downloads. So, right. We do see a lot of earlier stage apps trying to use things like giveaways, contests, waiting lists, that sort of thing. I think the waiting list product works really well. But coming back to your push notifications, I definitely think that's a great way to do it. I don't see as many brands using not push notifications, browser push notifications. I don't see as many brands using it as there probably should be. But I don't know. I think it's not as saturated as email and SMS yet. Maybe it will get there. Maybe the browsers will put a stop to it. Who knows? Everybody's really in the grip of Apple and Google. especially when it comes to apps and downloads, because the fees on listing in Apple and Google app stores is just ridiculous. I think there was recently a court case actually that passed that they're now allowed to redirect payments outside of the app or something. That was the big feud between which was it? What was the gaming company?
I think it was Fortnite, perhaps, an app.
Yeah.
I can't recall exactly, but yeah, they basically had a big tug of war, and then I think the Department of Justice or the FTC sort of started to look into it, and Apple caved before it actually reached litigation, I believe. But I mean, obviously, closed systems are great if you can get away with them, which Apple did for a long time.
Yeah, you can only do it for so long, though, can't you?
Yeah, it depends on the regulatory framework. The EU is obviously even less tolerant than most U.S. regulatory frameworks. So it'll be fascinating to see where that goes. So email and SMS are both sort of push style notifications, and email inboxes. There's a pretty decent tolerance for overmailing and perhaps being a little bit more aggressive. But SMS feels much more personal, and a lot of folks really don't want to get messaged from an SMS basis. So what are some best practices that you recommend with regards to SMS messaging for your clients?
Okay, so with SMS, you really want to think about how you can be helpful versus, salesy and spammy, because people have less tolerance with text messages for sure. As you mentioned, it's way more personal than an email inbox. So I think what you want to do here is think about how can you add value and how can you be helpful to that potential customer, rather than how can you just think about how can I get that money. So when you receive a text message, it's usually not a promotion for you to go and spend money. Usually it's going to be something like, okay, here are the directions, here's our contact information, how do you like the product, would you leave a review, abandoned carts, those sorts of things. Now, once you've sent those sorts of text messages and you've got your customers familiar with using text message, like for example, being able to contact someone for customer support or product support via text message is very helpful, not very spammy. But once you get them into the cadence of being able to communicate with your brand via text, then you can start introducing maybe some more marketing material. Say, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is coming up. You can be like, hey, here's our waiting list for early access to our Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal. Or even on the day of, you can say, hey, Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals just went live. Go here to check them out. So I think first off, you need to build the trust. You need to create some value. You need to make it so that they understand that receiving text messages from you is a good thing, not a bad thing. And then once you have that trust, you can then start sending them more, I would say, sales-focused text messages. The other thing is, like, what I really love, what we do a lot with in Klaviyo, is we introduce a combination of text messages and email. So for example, as you build out your flows and your drips, you can have, people decide whether they want to get contacted via email or SMS. And so you can give them the opportunity to opt into it and be like, no, I'd actually prefer you contact me via SMS. And you will get a percentage of people who actually say yes and a percentage of people that say no. But once you know that those people are happy to receive that, you put them in another segment and you're saying, okay, I can be more aggressive with these people in terms of sending text messages because they actually want to receive the text messages. Usually people will get offended or they'll reply stop or report you if they're receiving text messages that they didn't want to receive or they weren't expecting to receive. So being upfront and saying like, hey, we will send you text messages is also a way to lower that kind of guard that everybody has up when it comes to receiving marketing material, because everybody starts at 100% defense. And as you build the trust, that defense lowers.
Right. That's great advice. Some brands and retailers have sort of embraced sort of brands as publishers where they're doing content creation. And so they're doing that to sort of find a balance between sort of gives and asks, where they're wearing a publishing hat. For those of your clients who sort of have embraced that and sort of have a content creation team, potentially, obviously not all brands are fun. So, but you want to create content that is engaging and interesting in some way. For those brands who have sort of jumped into that, is there sort of a choreography or a cadence that they should follow with regards to that sort of a certain percentage of sort of interesting, fun brand as publisher content, and then the occasional sale message or the occasional customer service message or how-to message?
Yeah.
Are there any sort of best practices there, or is it more really dependent on, whether the category that they're in is interesting or boring? Accounting may not be as exciting, except to accountants, right? But every product, every service is, I guess, a little bit different. But are there some general themes that resonate and work well?
Yeah, well, as you said, it definitely comes down to the niche and the type of customer that you're working with. But I usually suggest like 1 in 3 is a marketing message for in general, and then 1 in 5 for more conservative niches. So really, and when you say the more boring niches, every niche can be interesting, exciting. It's just how creative you're going to get with it. So, making people laugh or making people smile is a great way to build that trust. So, jokes, interesting things, topical content on what's happening in the industry that might be funny or might be interesting or might be unique. Depending on how creative your content team is getting, whether it's an email or an SMS or a blog post, how creative they're getting with that will determine how much trust you can build with that customer or how much you can get away with further down the line. Because if you send, let's say 2 emails that are really interesting, it's like if you're in accounting or something, changes coming up, or dates that you can remember, or you can put together a quick glossary of all of what terminologies mean or what short codes mean or whatever, or do a stat on what's the most popular Excel formulas that accountants use. If you can add some interesting stuff in there, and then the third email they get is actually more promotional and salesy, and you're trying to actually, say, hey, just try a free trial of our accounting software, or talk to someone and how we can halve the time that you spend in Excel. They're much more likely to respond to that once you've kind of made them laugh or smile in the first 2 emails.
Right. So for those folks who push back and say, hey, the registrations we get as a result of a promotion like a contest or a sweepstakes, in particular a sweepstakes, they'll sometimes push back and they'll say, well, that person really wasn't that interested, and they don't have the level of intent that a sort of authentic customer would have. What's your response to that? Is it sort of just like, okay, even if their 1/3 is good, it's still important, or do you sort of have a deeper response to that?
Well, I agree with them. So, someone entering a giveaway or contest isn't going to be as high intent as someone who's clicking on a Google ad, who's looking for your service. But the difference is you're paying, 20, 30 cents for that email, whereas you're paying $4 for the click. So, you have quality and quantity, and you've got to find that balance. Now, when it comes to giveaways and sweepstakes, a few things that people make as a mistake is they don't put a relevant prize or reward in place. So going back to accounting, if you're not giving out something that accountants are interested in, if you're just giving a $100 gift card to Amazon, you're going to get everybody entering that. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of signups, you're going to collect a lot of emails, but a very small percentage of those people are actually going to be interested in your products. So 1 is definitely choosing a prize or a product that's aligned with the type of person that you want to attract. 2, always cleaning the list. So when you do a giveaway or a sweepstakes or something like that, you're going to collect a lot of leads, and it's going to be much cheaper, but you will want to put that through a list cleaning service or something, like a verified email or something like that. Now you might lose 20 or 30% of those leads for being, maybe they're not valid emails, or maybe they're not relevant, or maybe they're going to bounce, or maybe they're full inboxes, or whatever it may be. It's probably not going to be 20 or 30, but there'll be a small percentage of emails that just aren't good. Or people thinking that they can enter a fake email to win the prize. But, being upfront that you need to enter your correct email and phone number for us to contact you about your prize. Simple stuff like that, a lot of brands won't do. And so people will be like, oh, maybe I'll just put in a fake email. But if you're clear about hey, we need your correct information to send you the prize details, then they'll enter that correct information. So a few things like that. And then when it comes to looking at, hey, they're not converting straight away, people entering that giveaway might not be looking for your solution at that time that you've run the giveaway, or you've sent the final, winner announcement email, or you've sent the follow-up offer that you have sent to all the runners up, or whatever it may be. But maybe 2, 3, 6, 12 months down the line, now that they're on your email list and it's costing you, sense to get in touch with them, your product might be relevant to them later down the line. So I think another thing that brands need to think about is like not the direct, number of sales that they get on that first email, but it's like, look at that segment or look at that list over the next 3, 6, and 12 months and see what ROI came from that. Because not everybody is looking for your solution the time that they sign up for the giveaway. A lot of the time they're signing up to the giveaway because they want that, but they can't afford it, or maybe it's not the right time for it. But if they had it for free, it'd be worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice. I haven't run any big sweepstakes in probably about 6 years, but I remember about 6 years ago, I did some research into elasticity of response. And basically what that is sort of how big does the prize need to be for different segments and different audiences to get off their butt and be willing to trade their contact information for access to the sweepstakes. And sort of, we had found what we thought was sort of the sweet spot, but obviously the more wealthy the person is, or the less likely they are to sort of give up their email and give up their phone number. Have you guys done any research in that, or do you sort of maybe have just sort of anecdotal data as to sort of where the sweet spot is? And the reason that ends up being super important, at least in the United States, is Florida and New York have this sort of magic number where over $5,000 need to get bonded in those states, right? So, $4,995, if that works just as well as 5,000, obviously everybody would pick that number. But then, maybe there's a big response at 10,000, right? And a big jump in response. Any hard data or anecdotal data to sort of support where that sweet spot is?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, this is definitely dependent on the recipient. So usually the more luxury the brand is or the product is, the higher that value or perceived value is going to have to be to get the potential customer to take action. If you have a low price product, you have way more customers. So if you're an apparel store and you are selling, let's say female clothing, you have, 50% of the population. And then of that, almost all of them, like maybe all of your potential people are shopping multiple times a week for new clothes or something. Whereas if you're on the accounting software side, you've got a very small percentage of the country that's going to actually be an accountant and then want to opt in. So the lower the average order value that you have of your store, the lower the prize value can be. And also another factor that came into this was actually the frequency. So for example, if you are doing a weekly giveaway or a daily giveaway, the value of the prize can literally be like $100. And people change their mindset to be like, wow, they're giving out one of these a day. I have a really high chance of winning this. Versus if you're running something for 30 days, your value actually has to be higher because they think, oh, I've got a less chance of winning this. So you've got two things to think about. You've got one is, who am I trying to attract? What's their household income? The higher the household income, the higher your price value is going to have to be for your target market. Two, how frequently am I going to run this giveaway? If I'm doing daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever it may be, the longer the period of time that you run your giveaway, the higher that value of the prize is going to have to be. So I don't necessarily just give an exact amount to brands. I usually give them this thought process of like, okay, what's the household income of your potential customer, and then how frequently do you want to run this? And then from that, you can kind of figure out, what would get them motivated. So let's say the household income is 50,000, or let's say 100,000, and you're going to run something, let's say weekly. So how much do you think 100,000 household spends a week on your types of products? So if it's clothing, maybe they spend $100, $200 a week. Okay, so if you just make your price $500, that would be compelling to them. Whereas if you think about, software, it's like how much money do they spend on software a week? It's not that much probably, or like they only make a big purchase every now and again. So that value of that price has to be a lot higher to get them motivated to do it. So don't necessarily think about the value of the actual prize. Think about like who the customer is and what would get them motivated. So, we see a lot of stuff in like, the camping, the apparel space, e-commerce brands have it a lot easier than B2B or software brands. But yeah, really thinking about who the target customer is, how much they spend on your type of product a week or a month, however long you're running it for. And then how can you kind of like increase that amount by, let's say 20, 30 or 50%. so that they would be like, okay, I usually spend this amount of money on this a month. All right, they're giving me all of this for free. And that's enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, I'll just give them my email.
Cool. That's great advice. Are any of your clients actually sort of mixing and matching where they're running sort of, a 3-month or quarterly bigger prize and dailies sort of mixed in to use the psychology in both directions?
I would say not too many doing daily, but I would say weekly and monthly is the most common. And also it depends on the size of your audience. So for example, if you have a really large audience, you can get away with running giveaways for a shorter period of time and still getting enough entrants because the scarcity is really high, but you have the distribution for it. If you're just starting out, or if you're a new brand, or you don't have a huge distribution meaning an email list, social following, organic traffic, or partners and influencers to help you promote it. If you don't have a very big distribution network, you're probably gonna have to run that longer to get enough leads from it. So really, I think the sweet spot is either weekly or monthly. And then if you're a new brand, you might want to push that a little bit further, maybe like 60 days max. And then if you're a really big brand, you can get away with doing kind of like, a few days or weekly. So that's usually what I suggest to people. If you're brand new, you're probably gonna have to do longer. If you're a bigger brand, you can probably get away with shorter. And then usually we see people running giveaways pretty much quarterly. So the goal with your giveaway is not to just run a giveaway for no reason at all. You want to attach your giveaway to an event, an anniversary, or something of interest, specifically something that's related to your niche or industry. So like if you sell dog products, what's National Dog Day? What's National, Husky Day? Whatever it may be, like tie your giveaway promotion into some sort of event or anniversary, and you'll get less kind of like salesy or promotional pushback. And they'll be like, oh, this is the reason why they're running it, to celebrate a day or to celebrate an occasion. So usually those occasions come up maybe like once a quarter. So you might do Mother's Day giveaways, Father's Day, you might do Black Friday giveaways, Christmas giveaways. There's all these different events that happen that you can create your campaigns around. And I would say if you do it too frequently, people will get like bored by the concept. If you do it kind of like quarterly or something, then they get excited every time it happens.
Right. Again, really great advice. Do you feel like a significant percentage of folks actually look at the draw date? If it's sort of non-obvious, do they like dig around and try to figure out, okay, when's this drawing? When do I need to check back in, or when can I expect to get announced as the winner? Because obviously they're putting themselves in the shoes of the winner as they're entering. So do people sort of dig around for that draw date?
Yeah, so I would definitely be upfront about it if I'm a brand. So that's why we kind of enable countdown timers, because it makes it super clear of when it's ending. And then also how you name it. So you could name it like daily, weekly, or monthly giveaway if you wanted to. Right. So people know it gets drawn that frequently. But usually the countdown timer is the best. And then you can also have an end date. Pretty much, really, I think legally, you have to make the start and end date visible. You have to make it visible to say, hey, this is when the winner is going to get drawn. You also have to kind of, give them all of that information in the terms and conditions. But for the start and end date, it's actually better even just take that out of the terms and conditions and just include it on your landing page, because if people can't see an end date, they again think, oh, my chances of winning this are really small because I don't even know when this is ending.
Right.
So you only hurt yourself by not putting it front and center.
Right, absolutely. Do a lot of your customers or clients using the platform support their giveaways and sweepstakes with media? And if they do, what's the media mix that's typically working for them? Obviously, again, each of them will be different. If it's B2B, maybe they're using LinkedIn. If it's B2C, maybe they're using the Facebook, Instagram. But other than their own media, like their internal email list or partner lists, what's been working for them? What do you recommend for them to support their sweepstakes or their giveaways?
Yeah, so two very successful marketing strategies for giveaways and contests is one, the stories placement on Instagram. or TikTok or whatever it is, swipe up to enter is just a golden call to action. And you can get very, very cheap entrance leads. I suppose it's technically a click. But yeah, that's a very, very good strategy to go with, because when you have the video, so for example, this is what I would do. So if you're a founder, make a video explaining why you're doing the giveaway, what you're giving away, and why it's so important for them to enter. And at the start and at the end, swipe up to enter. If they can see the person behind the giveaway, and they can see the brand, and they can see the reason why they're doing it, they're again thinking about that 100% level of kind of guard being up. As soon as they see the founder, it goes down to maybe 90. As soon as they see the prizes, it maybe goes down to 70. As soon as they see that it's an easy entry, it's going to take them 5 seconds, and the value is really high, it may go down to 40. So all of these things, you've got to think, how do I lower that person's kind of like defenses, marketing defenses? Because, you know, if you don't give any information, you don't put a face or a founder behind it, or you don't show that the brand is legitimate, you know, people are going to be like, this is spam. So, you know, using video content, using the stories placement, TikTok is working really well just because it's so cheap. Snapchat, Instagram stories, Facebook stories, those sorts of ones, you can get across a lot of information. You can make it very personal, and the call to action can be really easy. You know, you can definitely do the other ad platforms as well, like the Facebook feed and all that sort of stuff. But those ones we've seen the most success with. And then influencers as well. If you have, you know, people either that you've previously worked with, or you have connections with, or you even reach out to. So influencers that are specific to your niche, it's a win-win situation, because you might say, hey, I'll give you $100 to post this giveaway. They'll be like, great, this is something different than my regular, you know, buy these socks, or buy this shirt from this company, or buy this energy drink. So usually they're getting paid, or they're doing sponsorships or whatever, you know, they're having to sell out. They're having to like push a product on their audience. Whereas when it's a giveaway or a contest, it's, you know, the followers are getting value because they can enter and win something for free. The influencer's getting value because he's getting paid, and he's not being super spammy or promotional with some brand deal. And then you're winning because you're also collecting information from their audience. So it's kind of like a win-win situation with influencers. And if you then amplify that with ads, so it's be like, okay, I'll give you $100, $500, $1,000, whatever the number is that you negotiate with the influencer, then you could say, okay, on top of that, I'll spend $200 boosting that post. And then what you can do is you can just take that post and boost it with paid ads, and you can get even more leverage and exposure. Because when I have a brand, so say I've got a brand that's called, you know, Nike shoes. And I'm like, you need to come buy my Nike shoes. They're amazing. You know, there's nothing like it. You're like, okay, great. He's just promoting his own shoes. But if you have Dave over there say, hey, Nike shoes are awesome, you should really go check them out. They have a great deal on right now. That person might be like, oh, Dave said they're pretty good, I'll go check them out. Whereas the difference between self-promotion and assisted promotion is huge. Assisted promotion is where today's marketing gold is, because people are taking recommendations, advice, and influence from all of the people that they follow on social media. So if you can be that person that they're suggesting or recommending, then that's putting your brand in a really good spot, because people are becoming a lot more aware of when a brand is self-promoting and just pushing ads saying, hey, I'm great, come use my product. Or even when you do a comparison and say, hey, we're the best shoe brand. If you're the shoe brand and you're saying you're number one, nobody's going to believe that anymore. So you got to think about, how can I create those assisted marketing plans where I'm not the one saying my product is great, someone else is saying my product is great.
Again, super great advice. Some of this people might not find just going to the Viper site, right? So for those people who are sort of fresh to trying this out, and you know, there may be even more pearls of wisdom that you've got that you haven't shared yet. I'll try to get them out of you before the end of the podcast. But you know, what do you recommend for the sort of people who are new to promotions, who haven't used them before? You know, are there, excuse me, are there any guides that they should use?
Yeah, so we publish a ton of content on our blog. So on viper.ai/blog, we publish pretty much all content around giveaways, sweepstakes, and all that sort of stuff, gamification, monetizing social followings, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to try and look at running that sort of stuff, go there, because there's a bunch of guides on, running Father's Day or Mother's Day promotions, running Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotions, using waiting lists, how to use influencers in your marketing efforts, how to get higher open rates on your emails from your giveaways, all that sort of stuff. So that blog is very specific to giveaways and contests. And then we have another blog, topgrowthmarketing.com/blog, and that's got more general marketing advice on like how to actually grow your revenue, how to grow your brand. And there is a little bit more kind of like top level stuff on that. It's not just about giveaways and contests. It's more about how to actually position yourself to grow and what marketing tactics you can use to do that. So yeah, I would check out those two if you're looking for guides and resources. Of course, I just said don't self-promote, and I just listed both of my two blogs. But yeah, the other places, definitely follow some of the top people on social media. Like, Gary Vee has some great advice. If you're doing SEO stuff, Neil Patel, that sort of thing. There's a lot of great marketers out there that have a lot of guides on all of these topics. Google is great at indexing the best guides. So, really take a look at, what you actually want to achieve for your brand. Is it revenue? Is it more email leads? Is it more traffic? Because you can't do everything at once. You need to pick one goal and choose one strategy to try and achieve that. And then you move on to the next goal and the next strategy. You can't do all at once. You can't be like, all right, I'm going to do this one campaign. I'm going to get more traffic. I'm going to get more engagement. I'm going to get more followers, more sales, more emails. It just doesn't work like that.
So the platforms, a lot of the sweeps platforms, including yourselves, right, are incentivizing post entry behaviors to get more entries, right? Are there certain ones that are most popular among the sort of people on the thank you page where they're like, oh, I'll definitely do this? Should you sort of put the kitchen sink in there and list all of those things, or should you just sort of pick a handful of those and say, all right, well, we're going to do, YouTube channel, we're going to do Twitter follow, et cetera? Like, how should people go through that thought process of what to enable within your platform?
Yeah, so usually best advice and what we see working the best is picking 2 to 3 channels that you want to focus on, and then really focusing on the tagging friends and sharing. So these 2 metrics or these 2 events or tasks will create earned impressions. So earned impressions are the impressions you're not paying for. So for example, what I always suggest to brands is that they create a post on those top 3 channels about their giveaway or about their promotion. And then once they enter that giveaway, the bonus actions in there, so they usually take bonus action. A participant will take bonus actions to earn more points to unlock prizes. You might have milestone prizes. You might have a top place or top first, second, third, or you might have a random winner where the more points you have, the higher your chance of winning. However you decide to incentivize and create a prize, ideally the bonus action is going to help them get closer to winning that prize. Now, the bonus actions that work really well is once you've created that post on, let's say, Instagram or Facebook. So you've created the post on Facebook to say, hey, this is my, let's say the dog one, this is my husky awareness giveaway. And the bonus action is go to my post and tag 3 friends that love huskies, or go to my post and tag 3 friends that have huskies. And so all of a sudden, this is looping back into what I was saying before, someone else is saying how good your brand is, or someone else is introducing the brand to them, and it's not me. So getting people to tag friends is a great way to organically introduce people to your brand and it not look too self-promotional, because you've got 2 different ways of going about it. So when someone enters, they're willing to go and send the referral link to all their friends, or they're like, I don't want to be annoying my friends with this. I'm going to do these other posts that are less aggressive. So less aggressive meaning tagging friends, maybe sharing the post about the Husky Awareness giveaway to all of their friends and families. Maybe it might be watching the video or leaving a comment on the video, that sort of stuff. So you got to think about like how aggressive they're going to be with helping you with promotions. And it's a good idea to think about having a bonus action for each level. So, okay, the easiest and least aggressive is just go and like my page. Then it might be go and tag 3 friends in this post. Then it might be share this referral link. So, addressing all the levels will help you get more out of your post-entry participants, because you want to make sure they're at least doing something. You don't just want to collect the email and that's it. You want to try and get them to do more than that, because you want to get as much value out of that. Let's say it's from paid ads. You want to get as much value out of that click as you can, because that's going to make that 20 cents that you paid much more valuable, or a much better ROI on that 20 cents. Whereas if you just collect the email, there's a lot of missed opportunity there.
Great. So any parting wisdom, or, we didn't really talk much about sort of the countdown and some of the other features. We talked a lot about sweepstakes. So, feel free to talk about some best practices on the features that Viper includes and how best to use them.
Yeah, so I would say, there's a lot of tools out there. So many tools that run giveaways and sweepstakes. What it really comes down to is, having a good prize, really aligning it with your customers, and then just using the tool to facilitate and maximize the value. So, one big thing that people overlook is the prize. So it's like, how am I going to craft this prize? So I highly suggest, and what feature that a lot of people do really like about Viper is that you can make combinations of prizes. So you can have a random winner, and then you might have 2 milestone prizes. And then you also might have a top first place winner. So you can make it so that anybody who enters has a chance of winning. It's not just like winner takes all. And this is really important because you want to keep everybody who enters motivated. So when you create a giveaway or a sweepstakes, I suggest having 1 random winner, 1 top place winner, top place meaning the most points collected, and then 1 or 2 milestone rewards, meaning once you collect 100 points, you unlock this. Once you collect 500 points, you unlock this. If you combine multiple ways of winning, you're going to get much more engagement, and you're going to have all the participants being much more motivated to actually go and complete all those bonus actions. So you're going to get more likes on your content, you're going to get more comments, you're going to get more shares, more tags, and you're going to get more earned impressions. So that would be one of the biggest takeaways, is combine different prize types so that you're keeping everybody motivated. And for the bonus actions, think about how you can get more earned impressions. So that's the shares, that's the tagging friends, that's leaving comments, that sort of thing. If you can do it on a post that you're turning into an ad, this is like, Super Saiyan level, because you have all of this engagement that's telling Facebook or Instagram or whichever platform you're running the ads on that this content is really valuable, because the way that they gauge how much they should show content or where you should rank when the ad auction happens is a lot of it is based off engagement. It's like, is the community liking this content? And if you're inflating that and increasing the content, you're going to get much better cost per 1,000 impressions, CPMs. You're going to get much more organic reach, and you're going to get much more impressions as a result of that for the same amount of money that you would have spent. So, being smart about how you position things and how creative you can get with incentivizing people and gamifying these platforms, is going to get you much better results in your giveaway or sweepstakes.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Jack, for sharing all of that wisdom with the EMA audience. And I look forward to continuing to watch the evolution of the platform. Seems like you're still innovating with it all the time. So that's great to see.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate the time, and hopefully everybody learned something. And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, or anybody listening has any follow-up questions, definitely hit me up. Jack Paxton, if you just Google it, there'll be, all the social channels and that sort of stuff. So yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Great, my pleasure.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.